season in general. But you're in the off season now. What motivates you to even go to your team-led practices without your coach?
I want to win. I want to go to playoffs.
What rank do you need to get to go to playoffs in our league?
For us, since there's not that much players, we really need it.
Okay. And soccer is top 6. I think it's what I heard some of the guys were saying in T&T class. So, what motivates you to go run? So, going to playoffs, improving times. Bella, what gets you to go to practice every day?
I would say my teammates.
That's usually what you hear when you hear like an old player retire. You know, like, what are you going to miss the most? They usually say my teammates.
That's actually funny because I was literally talking to my mom yesterday because I was like, I think I'm ready to retire.
There we go. So here's what we're going on today. We're going to talk about all these things here. So I want you to think back. So I already kind of made you do that. What motivated you to go to practice? Of all the teams that you guys have been on, and it can be whatever level, is there a particular coach that inspired you more than the others? Okay, I want you to turn to somebody next to you and tell them what coach and why.
No, like I don't know, like I guess what motivated me was like I don't know. It was just fun. I guess, but like I wouldn't say that motivated me because like there were definitely times where I was frustrated. Maybe it's like difficult because sometimes it's so slow and I want to quit because my child was so she's like, no, I'm not ready. You have to like see you're not gonna just loud. I don't know. I actually don't know. It's a little complicated.
There's many people.
They weren't my coach. I feel not to like, sound like that, but my parents are like the best. They were like, yeah, they were tough. They used your strength.
So yeah, he was just at the end.
All right, Thomas. Of your group, which person had the best coach, did it sound like? The most inspiring coach?
Val said she didn't have any coaches, so I guess maybe.
See, Zach, what was the best one from your group over there?
Probably JP's.
He left looked like David
Why? Details?
Well, my coach, for track, he coached for the Oregon Ducks for like a lot of years. And
They have a solid program up there.
yeah, they're good at track. So I would just remember like he would make us do like 600s all the time, and you just hear him screaming to like get uncomfortable and like get out of your comfort zone. He would just be screaming at you like just get uncomfortable. You would be dying. Like, you hear that, you just get a little more energy. You know, he's like my person, taught me to never settle.
Interesting. Nyla, what about your group?
So both of our coaches that we like love the most were our parents, and they, I guess, founded our love for the sports that we play. And then we noticed like when we had other coaches, they were awful.
Well, we're going there next. I gotta admit, my favorite coach was my dad. He coached me from, I don't remember if he started 6th grade or if he started 7th grade. I think it was 6th through 9th. And the first year he was the head coach because nobody else would coach us in basketball. And he didn't know a ton at that point. He was like a really good rec player. And then we got this guy from, he was a 6'6", white hair, white mustache, goatee, depending on what he had. He was like 80 years old with a big booming voice. And my dad what became the assistant, and he learned under him. And I remember driving to games and strategizing with my dad. And then after the game, we would usually go out to eat, and we called it rehashing the game after. And that just kept me wanting to play more. And every time we talk about how are we going to do this better, how are we going to do this better, I would just be reeling, how am I going to do this? And it just got me motivated to I wanted to go to practice like right now after those games were done. Was there a specific motivational strategy that seemed to help? I was like, I liked I'm not sure if I truly like the screaming, but that's a good motivation. That is a motivational strategy.
You could like scream from like 200 meters away and you hear, because when you're running, he's far from you. If you were whispering, you're talking to confidence, you wouldn't hear it.
Plus, you got to hear over your as you're breathing there, which I'm guessing.
He was just more like motivated. He was just loud. Trying to get you to hear it.
Did they, so that kept you at like that peak activation, sometimes they call it arousal, like the peak arousal. I was watching football last night, and I don't know, and I was reading through this at the same time, and I'm like, I remember playing flag football, and you were like ready to pounce, like your adrenaline was just ready to, and then they hiked, and then you just went as hard as you could, and like having that like almost over the top energy level for those 10 seconds of that play, and then you had to like calm down after that. I was like, that was always something that I always did it myself, but I'm a little overzealous when it comes to competitions. So I was like, did any coach help you kind of achieve that like level of it being amped up is what I call it? Do you think that coach had an effect on your individual and team success? All right. Now, think about it, and you're going to tell somebody next to you. Somebody coach that did not do something right. Preferably on the motivational side, not on anything off the field. Go.
Yeah, literally. Well, it's not like there was no motivation. They just would have the same basic throws every day. I didn't feel like we saw any progress with our team, and some but then some of them were juniors and sophomores, and some of the seniors were so she was in trouble. And there was this one point, and I was so upset. Some of them pulled out their phones and they just like, we're just like, oh, I was like, I looked over and I saw, I was like, there's no way this is happening right now. Like, people are on their phones. Like, I didn't even know, I don't even remember where I put my phone. I just know it was not with me at the bench. But like, yeah. So, he didn't have any control. He had no motivation. He just said like, okay guys, we're gonna do this. If we do this, we're gonna do it. And then like, he had no control over like how to actually
Run plays.
Yeah. And then another coach were all shit. I was like, yeah. And she just like yelled at us. She was like, okay, we'll do it, but like, that's not really like actually helping us. It's not giving us any Sorry, I feel like I always talk to you about
All right. Let's see. Luis, what was the worst coach in your group? Experience what?
Sorry, there's nothing to repeat.
That was fascinating. He only what?
He would let his son take shots, and JT would have to watch. If JT took a shot, he would say, "You're a bad shooter. Your son's better than you."
Wow, that's definitely one I've heard of, but I've never experienced. I've never had a coach tell me not to shoot, but that awesome 6'6", 80-year-old guy, he had a philosophy that I've kept is if you don't take an open shot, the other team will never respect you. And then now you're playing 5-on-4. So I would say if it's a good shot, you have to take it. Even if you miss, your teammates know if you're not a good shooter and they're going to crash the boards harder knowing that. And that way, at least people are going to close out on you on the next time. Shoot it with confidence, whether you are good at it or not. At least next time, someone's going to fly at you because you shot it with confidence, as long as you didn't airball it. And then you'll probably be able to pump fake and go around, do something. And at least you're still playing 5-on-5. But, I remember hearing the girls coach when I was in high school, and I went to a little Adventist school like prep here. And I remember hearing that the girls coach only let his daughter and one other player shoot. Now his daughter at a little 50-person school, his daughter's 6'3". So, I mean, in some ways it somewhat made sense. When you've got the girl that's a head taller than everybody else, you'd rather than be throwing it inside to her, and she just parked anywhere in the lane there, and she would just turn and shoot and keep it up high, because she could until she got to college, she didn't really find anybody her height. So in some ways it made sense, but I don't remember seeing him in the years after that, because he kept coaching other places, at other academies, and he had the same exact plays, which, I mean, I'll do the same thing here. Yeah, that was an interesting one. So I was like, I've somewhat seen that, but I also somewhat agreed. I don't agree with telling people never to shoot, but I can see like, feed this person, that's our best option. When they're a head taller than everybody makes total sense. That's what your strategy is. But when you're trying to do it to like get your kid a scholarship, I got a problem with that. All right, Val, what was the worst coach in your group?
the lower level of teaching, but he was come up to the next level, like higher level, because there's no one else teaching. So,
Definitely seen that. What about, let's see, Nyla talked last time, so. Bella, what's the worst one in your group?
well, Nala and I were like kind of agreeing, but she was telling me her experience, like, her coach didn't really have control over the team. Like she said, like during a game, like they pulled out their phones on the bench or something like that. Sorry, I don't really know details, but yeah, mostly.
Mine's similar, except it was before phones.
Pagers?
No, not that old.
Oh, sorry.
I don't think I don't think there were very many high schoolers that had pagers. I mean, I'm sure it existed, but it wasn't as prevalent as phones were. I had a coach. He was the principal of my sophomore year, and I had just come from playing on that homeschool team that went to homeschool nationals, and we got like 11th at least in the country, which was really just the Midwest. At least at that big tournament of like 50 some odd teams. So I'd come from playing a fairly high level basketball, and I go to this little academy in the middle of Nebraska, and the principal's the only one willing to coach us, and it drove me nuts because I knew more than he did. He had zero control of anything. We had no offense, pretty much no defense. Our practices were basically pickup ball games. And his timeouts were so pointless, and here's where it's similar to yours, that the bench players that weren't getting in the game, because there was like 15, 17 guys on this team, were taking a ball and going and shooting during timeouts rather than listening to the coach. Like, that's how little control he had and very little motivation that he had over his team. All right. Same basic thing. Oh, were those teams successful that had bad coaches? No? I'm pretty sure we lost every game. My dad ended up coming to coach. He would drive 2 hours to our academy, pretty close to 2 hours. And we'd have a like 9 till 11 o'clock practice at night. And then we'd turn around and have a 5 to 7 practice the next morning. And that was our entire practice for the week. And then he would drive home, and then he'd come back the next weekend and do it again. This would be like on a Sunday night, Monday morning, and then he'd come back for games. At least then we had some structure. But yeah, we got better. Our goal was always play on Sunday of the Adventist tournament, which these tournaments here don't even play on Sunday, which just feels sad to me. It's because they all want to travel home. But yeah, that was our thing there. So the book says there are 2 types of motivation. Anybody have a clue what those would be? Perfect. Intrinsic and extrinsic. What's an intrinsic motivation? Inner. And extrinsic would be? So, let's see. JT said that his motivation for the season was to make playoffs. Is that an intrinsic or extrinsic motivation? Extrinsic. Let's see. What was Bella wanted to be there for her teammates? Is that intrinsic or extrinsic? I'd argue it's a little bit of both. So generally, intrinsic is internal motivation. The most internally motivated player I have ever known was Kobe Bryant, if you don't know who that is. And so I, of course, had to find a video of Kobe Bryant and some of the stories. There are so many stories about his workouts at 4 a.m. Like, he would get up before everyone. And this is when he has kids at home. He'd put his kids to bed. He'd get up before them and then have a 2 or 3 hour workout, then go wake them up at whatever time kids wake up, which, mine was very nicely not that early this morning. So this is just one of those.
It's like when Kobe said, I was chasing perfection and excellence, even though I knew I would probably never catch it. But just the fact that I was willing to chase it, I would defeat most of my opponents, because most of my opponents would never chase something that didn't have any guarantees attached to it.
That's pretty internally motivated there. And there's probably some truth to that, because he definitely worked harder than pretty much everybody in the NBA.
It's like when Kobe said, I was...
All right, so extrinsic would be an external motivation. So playing for a championship, playing for a win total, playing for fame. I don't remember what movie it was. I was trying to find that video. But they asked one of the players, they're like, why do you play? And he's like, so we'll win championships and people will talk about us. And he's like, when's the last time this school won a state championship? And he's like, and none of the kids even knew. He was like, it was 7 years ago. It was like, it wasn't even that long ago. Does anybody talk about them anymore? So it's like, so is it really is that really the motivation that's good for your athletes? Is to have fame and fortune from winning a state championship in that case. I mean, every once in a while I still talk about Sac Adventist winning state a few years ago, but that's when Cyrus was still playing, which was very fun. I reffed his team's game as he's standing on the sidelines. And at one point he's like, Matt, what? And I'm like, I'm still watching. He's like over my shoulder. He's like, you need to check the jewelry. And I let him run a play, and this dude's got a necklace that's come out of his shirt that's like shining down to here. I'm like, what? Stop the game. Necklaces, wristbands, everything's got to come off. And like 4 guys, I didn't even see all of them. I only saw 2 guys, and 4 guys run to the sideline and take off their jewelry and come back. It was pretty funny. Like, whoops. Shows how many games I've been reffing all weekend long. And every once in a while you have some crazy fans like Nyla all over you too. You just never know.
Sorry, I was just wondering.
It's okay. Dr. Paulson called me on the way home on Sunday asking me. He's like, I don't understand these SARC rules. Tell me, is this really true?
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that.
Okay. All right, so here's an interesting... I love these guys. I don't know if you've ever heard of Point Guard College. They have some really great stuff. They're kind of an extension of the offense that I run, which is better basketball stuff. They've kind of merged together over the last few years, but some of their motivational stuff is just phenomenal.
Let's take a look at what happens when you offer incentives and rewards. There was a group of young kids who showed up, and they were playing street hockey or ball hockey right in front of this elderly gentleman's house. It's a Canadian story, so that's why hockey is being used. But they were playing ball hockey, and they came every single day, and inevitably the ball would go up onto his lawn. So these kids were constantly trampling on his lawn, and he had a lot of time on his hands. They were tired looking out the window watching these kids just beat up his front lawn, and they'd even take their sticks and they'd be hitting the ball on the lawn. And finally he got fed up. He said, I've got to get rid of these kids. How am I going to do it? They're all public property on the street. So he came up with an idea. Went out to the kids and said, hey guys, I just want to let you know that I think it's awesome that you're coming here and playing ball hockey, street hockey every single day. In fact, I'm enjoying it so much that I'd like to start paying you to come out and play. I'd like to turn you guys into professional athletes. So every day when you come, I'm going to give you $1 each. And the kids were just blown away by that. They thought, I'm going to get paid.
Do you think this is a good strategy to get them off his lawn? Now he's paying them to be there. Anybody think this is a good idea right now?
To come out and play street hockey. So they started showing up each day as they already were, and at the end of the day, he'd come out and say, thanks guys, give them $1 each. Well, after about a week, he said, guys, this is costing me a lot more than I expected. I'm going to have to cut this back to 50 cents. And they said, we understand. That was a lot of money. And they kept on playing, and he kept on giving me 50 cents. A few days later, he went back to me and he said, guys, this is still a lot more than I had bargained for, and you guys have been playing so consistently, I'm only going to be able to give you guys a quarter from now on. And the kid said, a quarter? Forget that, we're out of here. And it never came back again. That's the power of extrinsic rewards and extrinsic motivators, and what it does to deplete intrinsic motivation that each of us has. Here's a quote by theorist and researcher Alfie Kohn. Rewards are every bit as controlling as punishments as they control by seduction. If reward recipients feel controlled, it's likely that the experience will assume a punitive quality over the long run, even though obtaining a reward itself is usually pleasurable. In other words, when you motivate with incentives and a carrot and some form of reward, over the long term, it will have a negative impact on the athletes that you're working with. I'm not saying don't ever use an extrinsic reward, but just know the strategies that you're using and determine and give thought to the frequency by which you're going to use them.
So, is extrinsic motivation good for your players? Yeah? No? I'd say there is a place for it. I'd say your short-term goals might be more extrinsic, but your goal as a coach is to motivate them to have intrinsic goals and intrinsic rewards. I think that the extrinsic motivation of our players is a lot of the reason people burn out. The youth sports has gotten so specialized that kids are not, as you hear them say, I'm burning out because I'm not having any fun anymore. Their motivation is all external, and they have no internal drive to keep doing whatever they're doing. And you'll see this outside of sports as well. I don't know, actually I know why, because I was looking up Deion Sanders quotes the other day. I saw about a 3-minute video yesterday, and I should have saved it. But he was talking to his players, and this is at Colorado now. And so the ones I showed you before was at Jackson State. So at Colorado, where he's coaching now, and he's like, what do you guys have to worry about? He's like, you've got a meal card. They give you how much money for rent. There's like, you get to go play football all day long, and yet you aren't showing up for practice on time. There's like, you have all your needs taken care of by this university, and you are not investing in yourself enough to be in class on time. You have a free education. It's like, woo, man, talk about the lack of motive. He must have had some guys like not showing up to classes and gotten some things from teachers. I'm like, wow. And we know from earlier that they're all supposed to sit in the front of the class and be dressed nicely, or at least taking a shower before they go to class and things like that.
Let's take a
All right, so there's 2 things that athletes need, and pretty much at every level. And I was looking through this last night as I was taking a break from prepping for TNT class, which I'm trying to make a 35-minute soccer practice that we're going to try today in class. And I'm like, all right, as I look at this, I'm like, all right, I need to make sure this is fun and they need to feel worthy. What things can you do as a coach that can make a player feel worthy? Positive feedback. Especially because we're going to be doing 7th and 8th graders over there. We're working the 7th and 8th graders. One comment from you, one positive feedback for each player or each student per practice can sometimes lift their entire spirits for the rest of the week. I remember a person I worked for that it was my second year as guys director at summer camp. And we had, the girls' side always seemed to have drama. And I worked with 3 different girls directors the 3 years I was guys director, 3 summers. And I'm sitting there at, I don't know what time it was. It was right after staff worship, which staff worship I think was at 6:45 or 7. I don't remember which. It was really early to me, and especially in college where I purposely didn't have an 8 o'clock class if I could avoid it. If it wasn't a core class that I had to have to graduate and it was at 8, I was not there. I think I had 7:30 A&P class. That was one reason A&P was very difficult for me, is because it was at 7:30. But I'm sitting there, we'd had like 2 weeks of campers weeks. So we had Cub Camp, Junior Camp, and then we had a random family camp in July. They did kind of over the 4th of July. They had a family camp in the middle of all of our camper weeks. And when you're guys director and there's no little campers that aren't under their parents' supervision, because family camp, they all go around with their parents' places. So there's not as much for me to do as guys director that week. So I was sitting there handing out numbers so that they could eat. So that the families didn't have to. It was basically table numbers. As your family came in, I would give them a 5. I would give them a 6. You know, as each family came in, and then the girls director would sit there with the microphone and be like, 1 through 3 can come eat, 3 through 6. And it was just so people didn't have to stand in line, because there were like 250 campers. It was packed with people. And I'm just sitting there handing out numbers. I'm half asleep. I'm sipping on my coffee that I made in the cafeteria that morning, because somebody was smart enough to bring a coffee machine that year. And this is like when I first started drinking coffee. And I don't know why I remember that part of this detail. But camp director pulls up a chair next to me as I'm sitting in the doorway of the cafeteria at camp. And she's like, Matt, I never have to worry about your side of the hill. And I still remember that conversation. I remember the coffee I was drinking and the compliment that she never had to worry about my side. And I'm pretty sure the week before was where we had our staff party. It was the last staff party. And it was a pool party, and we left 2 people on the hill to watch all the cabins. And apparently some junior campers, so 10, 11, 12-year-olds, got in a fight over a girl. I was like, really? Really? 10, 11, 12-year-olds fighting over a girl. Yeah. Yeah, and this was like to punches, to swings. And so I was, in the pool party, had to get up, dry off, put a shirt on, and go deal with this. And so she was just like, let me know if you need me. And we had to kick him out and send him home, so I did have to have her. But she was like, I trust you, and I never have to worry about your side of the hill. That sustained me for like the next year. I did not know I was a words of affirmation person until that. I was like, wow, I did not know I liked compliments so much. That was really entertaining to me. So I felt worthy. And I've worked for that lady for 11 summers. I followed her to Maivedin in Idaho, and I followed her to Arizona. And even after I left Arizona, I would drive 12 hours from Lodi to Arizona to work for her for 4 summers after that. It is like, when you feel worthy from your leader, from your coach, that will make people will keep coming back to you, and they will keep being inspired by you. Like, making somebody feel worthy is huge as a coach. And it can be something as simple as a little compliment. Sometimes it's just listening. My wife is the one that can make people feel worthy by just sitting there and listening to them. That's why she loves working at prep, even though she gets paid a lot more to be an adjunct teacher at the college here. She loves it when high school students come and just sit in the office and talk to her. And I don't know what she talks to them about, but she has a girl from the last academy that we had that made a very poor decision. But that girl is now sending her pictures of her new baby, and she's a teenage mom. And while she was pregnant at the academy, she should have gotten kicked out. She was confiding in my wife from across the country. Like, that's the relationship that she had built. She had made this girl feel so worthy that she let her in on that secret from across the country. And then every probably few months now, the baby's probably 3 months old now, 2 months old. She gets a picture every few weeks now of what's going on there. That's all from her working on, they were the janitorial group. It's like the ones that were cleaning bathrooms. I was like, I don't know how she does it, but I mean, she made this girl feel that worthy. So that's a leadership quality that can motivate your athletes so much. So kids have a need to feel fun, have fun. Oh, good. I'm in good shape here. So we talked a little bit about activation. Some groups call it arousal. The flow experience. I am a rhythm player, which is really weird because it also goes into other sports like golf. I'm a rhythm player. Like, my whole routine in golf is, 1, 2, 3, trying to get that rhythm. I never actually take a full swing, and then I kind of check my backswing, and then I hit my shot. It's all rhythm. Basketball, I rhythm as I pull up and shoot. All those things just kind of go together. So that flow experience. I wasn't really good at football because I actually needed to be overhyped to play football. So creating conditions to optimize that activation. So designing your practices to get them hyped enough to be extremely focused, but still enough to enjoy what they're doing. And then, did anybody ever watch the old Mighty Ducks movies? What did they do on their last practice?
Which one? The second one?
Yeah.
Oh, like right when
The
Ireland team came to...
Yeah, before their championship game, they're like, "What are you going to do, coach?" And they're like, "You're going to turn into Captain Blood."
The beach ball.
Yep. They played hockey with a beach ball. That was their last practice to have fun. And they also were like, I think one guy was using a cowboy rope and was roping people. And so if you got roped, you were out. And the coach would would throw them out. It was all for fun. Let's say, so kids have a need to feel worthy. So winners think they're motivated to achieve success. So failure is caused by a lack of effort, thereby increasing the motivation. Losers, on the other hand, are motivated to avoid failure. So they're trying to protect their self-worth. They give minimal effort in practice and in games. I've definitely had teams. My best player would act like he did not care. He scored like 20-something points a game, and I kicked him off the team the second year because he was the person giving the minimal effort in practice, and it affected the entire team. So he was definitely that, if I don't try and we lose, then it's not my fault. So it was really hard to get that guy to give 100%. And I never did get 100% out of him. I wish I could have. There was chances, but I mean, he showed moments of it. But when you lose, I think we won one game that year. I think we were 1-14, and then the next year we went to playoffs we were one game over 500. It was pretty good change there by kicking off your best player. We're going to zip past that because I only got 3 minutes. So enhancing your athlete's motivation, mentally, that success is not defined by winning. So I would find other goals, and I'll do this during a game. Like if it's a game that you're getting blown out in, or vice versa, but let's just say you're getting blown out. I've been looking at that thing. We're down 25 points in a basketball game. All right, guys, I see it's 25 points right now. We're going into the fourth quarter. I want to see that at less than 20. And usually I know it's probably possible because they're going to start putting all their subs in, and I'm going to keep my best players in, and they're probably going to be able to outplay their bench players. But I give them a goal to shoot for rather than just go out there and play. Sometimes I'll be like, I want to be able to run. Let's try this new play we haven't done yet. Even though I don't run plays, but I'll say, here's a new action I want to try on offense. Or defensively, we're going to try to take one player out of the game. Something along those lines. So coming up with new goals that I can give them to keep them motivated for that fourth quarter that you're getting blown out. Or if you're winning by 25 points, trying to give them a goal to keep them motivated because you don't want them to just taper off and do nothing. Usually at that point, I've had to like take my press off and things like that, so they aren't quite as amped up at that point. Recognizing your athlete's limitations. That's another one there. There are some things that cause anxiety, and I think this is going to be your assignment over, since I talked too long, as usual. So you'll have like activation, performance, relationship, depending on how activated and how hyped up they are. Sometimes they're going to get too far and they're actually going to get anxious. When I coached girls, I think I overdid it a few times and they just tanked. Especially if you like called out one girl, you're going to be the best person here. We're going to rally behind you, and that girl crumbled and we lost. Those are things that there. But coaches stress. Your coach at home or things outside of things can cause you to have stress. So this is your assignment on Canvas, so you're not going to have time to work with a partner here. Create a list of 5 stressors, list 2 or 3 strategies for dealing with those stressors. So I'll say that's up on Canvas, and let's see if I can get to that one little spot there. It's like 20 seconds.
Form a certain number of sub-goals, which are, it's important that an athlete has a number of sub-goals which are related to their performance, so things like personal bests, that drive them both in training and in competition. It's important that those goals conform to certain features, and scientists, psychologists, and practitioners always refer to this SMARTER acronym, and that's because having goals that are realistic, relevant, specific, measurable, and so forth are really important when it comes to getting an athlete motivated. As I said earlier, motivation is not enough. It is important that an athlete is confident, and there are a number of ways you can boost an athlete's self-confidence. Experience, reminding an athlete of their experience is extremely important. Modeling, I don't mean catwalk modeling here, modeling is also an important aspect, because that enables an athlete to have a model or a...
Since we don't have much time here, that was just kind of giving you, that's another way of helping them feel worthy, were all those parts there. All right, so a small assignment online, and have a great day. I'll see some of you guys in an hour.
Teaching today,
Mm-hmm.
is all the equipment that
I know you had a bunch of things that were on that. I saw your picture. What all do you need from that picture?
I wrote it down, but I need 20 cones.
We got cones.
And 2 wax. Piece of like fabric.
Okay. So you're doing capture the flag. So 20 cones.
Pretty soon I'll be cranky.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay. So basically, cones and flags, there was like at least on the picture you had,